dream I had, I was traveling, me and my evangelistic team. In the dream, it started out, we were traveling, coming from a meeting that we had, and we was all headed back to our homes. And we live in different places in different states even, but we usually will meet up at one destination before we head out. And that's where we were going back to where we had met, because the vehicles gets left there at different places to where all our team can travel on either in one vehicle. We can be together as a team and hear the Lord and do what the Lord wants us to do. But we were traveling, and we had went by a distribution center warehouse, and in the dream we all was very aware of what was going on in the world, or in the United States. It was like there was a information that we had in our minds and our hearts, that we knew that there was plans that was in place to further take over the freedom of the United States of America. We was passing by this particular distribution center that is a very big distribution center in a lot of different areas. It's McLean, and we looked up at the warehouse, and they had, you could see where that one of the roll-up doors had been drove into, like a vehicle had drove into it, breaking inside the warehouse. And I was looking inside the warehouse. It's like I was observing what was going on at this point, and not really that I was standing in the warehouse, but I was able to see everything that had took place with every different point. And there inside this distribution center, the different varieties of different foods and condiments that was being used, all the food had been ravished. Somebody had broke in and took, but yet there was not a lot in their know-how, because there was such a shortage, such a huge shortage in food everywhere across the United States. And I knew that in my dream, they had things that had purposely happened to destroy and to weaken America. I'd seen that there was a chicken farm, and it was like 200,000 chickens, hens, that for food that had come down with a biological disease. But I knew that this was not something that was normally amongst the diseases that chickens can get sometimes, but it was being planted deliberately for the destruction of our food line. But this particular virus was being spread out even to cattle, and the cattle was being infected. There was a big, huge cattle company that's in Arizona, right there in the Phoenix area, that was affected, and the meat and the cattle was just dying, and there was all kinds of contaminations that was being found inside the food. The beef was being recalled. There were people getting sick. There were things being recalled, the cattle. And in various different places throughout the United States, there was deliberate sabotages happening in several different chains, food chains, that's distributed out through the United States. And I had seen also that there was some vegetables that was coming out of Mexico, and they're coming into the McAllen, Texas area, and that they was contaminated different parts. But there was all kinds of things that was taking place that was destroying our food source. And I seen that the fuel prices, there was a room of people in the dream. They was discussing the raise in oil, that the fuel will go up, and it was deliberately being done to slow down the people of America, that they won't be able to accomplish much because of the expense of the fuel. And again, I looked and I saw there was a truck stop. It was a real big truck stop, something like that Iowa 80, but it was real large. There was a lot of truckers that was in there, and they were discussing the prices of the fuel, and they was real agitated. And because of it, there were a lot of the truckers that was not being able to operate. I saw a people that in scattered different places throughout the United States. I seen them praying. I seen a people praying that they're not your regular Sunday go to church people, but they love the Lord with all their hearts. And they were praying, asking the Lord to have mercy on America, have mercy on our country. And everywhere that you went, it's like we could go from place to place. Everyone knew something was wrong, something was going on. Some people did not know, but there was a lot of people that did recognize something was going on in America with our food and different different ways that it's distributed, but it had affected the truckers. And by that, I saw a very big problem in getting the food trucked from place to place and moving the food around like would be needed. And there was such a concern. You could feel it through the land. After that, we was all going back towards the house, me and the evangelistic team, and we got back to the house and we went to sleep. And the next morning when we woke up, there was trouble being on the news. The news came on, and there was different food supply places, warehouses that had caught fire in the news on my dream. There was such a fight, such a uproar, uprising, because things was turning around from what they had wanted this to be in the White House. And I had seen President Trump sitting at a table in an Oval Office, but the Oval Office was not in Washington, D.C. Again, this is a dream I've had, that I've had it a couple of times now. And in this, President Trump was being briefed by some kind of military officers that was in the same room. I knew he had no idea about this that had just took place upon, they'd even went down to his home to collect him and brief him of what was going on and what was about to take place. And there was such a upsetness. There were different people in the Capitol that was coming on TV saying that this is a danger, it's against our Constitution, they're trying to take over. And it was the other way around. They was trying to take our land, and they had lost. I seen through this that there was such a change. There was such a change. I seen people that was in lines in different stores, lined up for different food. And I even saw something really kind of strange to me, but it was still, I saw the feed stores, like for the animals, where farmers would go for feed, that it was even affected by this outbreak that had come upon the world, deliberately being set. And I'd seen big, huge bins of wheat grain, like in different transport types that they transported by train and by ship and by truck, but there was things that was being done to try to undermine our food to where that we would be dependent upon someone that had to distribute our food out in rations. And there were other places that was stored up food and but it was the government that had stored the food up. I seen the Supreme Court justices, they had went under an attack from people because they've stood up for the Constitution and for what was right. I knew that the political people that had made all these advancements to take over and to steal and rob America of the freedom, it was starting to fall, and they got so agitated, so upset that the fall was happening so fast and so quick because the Lord had come up and moved on the land, moved on the laws, moved on the people, and he was not allowing the destruction that they were bringing to take place right now. And I seen a great move of God as the results, but yet they were still troubled. But I seen a group of people. I've seen Robin Bullitt and Kent, Amanda, Hank Kuderman, me, Wilbert Reed. There was numerous of different other people, Dutch, Mario, and just numbers of the people. We had reached a place that we were standing together, and I knew that this particular part of the dream, it meant and represented that we were all hearing the same word, the same voice, the same thing was being spoke to all of us. And if they're anything like I am, I do not listen to a lot of the other prophets because I do not want any kind of interference that might try to set up with what the Lord is showing me.